Hey guys, Chaz here from Elevate Coaching. This video is going to be all about kind of just helping you if you race solo. Some tips and tricks to really get a good result, and not only that, just race smart, race aggressively, and just kind of learn, how to navigate through the pack when you're racing by yourself. I mean, it can be a challenge, and quite frankly, quite a few of us, especially starting out, we aren't on teams, so we do race solo quite often. Now, when you get on a team, the team dynamics really change, and there's a lot of cool things that you can do, not only with your own strengths and abilities, but as a team. But when you're riding solo, it's definitely a little bit different. But so today, this is one of my athletes, Kyle Cooper. He races solo sometimes. He's on a team now, but in this race, he is racing solo. So this is a great opportunity to break down just what to do, and he had a relatively good result as well in this race. Now, this is the Murrieta Crit down in SoCal. This was back in, I want to say, it was probably March, I think. Anyways, before everything really went sideways with COVID. But he's racing solo, and this is the Cat 3 field. Kyle is very close to upgrading to a Cat 2. In fact, after this race weekend and another weekend, I think he got enough points to actually upgrade, which is super cool. But one thing he does early on is racing solo is you have to be aware of who's in the field. So I know he definitely looks at the start list, kind of picks out the strong teams, picks out some of the strong riders, and then kind of keeps an eye on them. And that's really going to be your biggest thing. You're going to want to know who the teams are. Like, if you get multiple teams represented up the road, then you're going to want to be in that mood, because the pack will obviously either let it go, or they're going to let it sit out there for quite a while, and they might not be motivated to pull it back since everyone's represented. Different things of that nature. But as a solo rider, you have to stay towards the front. And Kyle, he's done a great job too. He used to really be on the front and drilling, but the first couple laps he kind of sits in and just gets a feel. Now we jump forward a little bit here. We're about 5 minutes into the race. It was about I want to say it was about a 40-minute crit. Kyle's doing a really good job of staying at the front. I mean, as a solo rider, he's just has to watch wheels, has to stay in the top 10. That way, if anything serious goes, especially if it's represented by multiple teams, he can easily bridge into that and doesn't have to burn any matches. The other thing that he does very well in this race is he doesn't really go to the front too often to take massive pulls, which is huge because there's so many other people that are willing to work. Now, this guy was kind of riding off the front, and he puts in like a little dig here to bridge across to him, which I honestly think is a good move. And then actually he keeps attacking past the guy. Now, the pack is completely on his wheel and following him, but that's totally okay. I mean, I think what he did there, which is kind of good, kind of stretch out the legs too. It wasn't like a full all-in attack, but it was just a little bit of attack just to open the legs, stretch it out, see what the motivation of the field is too. That's something else. As racing solo, you have to figure out what the field is trying to accomplish. So sometimes when we go to races, certain teams will bring really good sprinters, and you kind of have an idea before the race even starts that, hey, I think they might actually try to bring this down to a sprint finish. So if you're racing solo, you're going to want to probably sit in a little more and look for the opportunity to sprint then, versus trying to constantly attack and get away and always get pulled back and just burn all of your matches. Anyways, we jump ahead again, and we're about 10 and a half minutes in now. There's a little group up the road. There's a guy right there that's trying to bridge to that group, and again, Kyle's being patient. He's sitting towards the front. He's gonna have to make a move here though, pretty shortly to get across that, because I think there's about 3 guys already. There's 2 or 3 guys off the front already, and then there's 2 more that are bridging. The pack is obviously motivated. If you look behind, I mean, they're doing 24, 23. It's a little technical through there, but they are motivated and they are moving pretty well. So, I mean, for him, he can just be patient. I know it's alarming having people up the road, but if you got guys on the front drilling to either keep it within range or slightly bring it back, that's a good thing. Then right here, he's contemplating attacking or not, and honestly, he finally goes. If he didn't go, I would have just dropped back and got more of a drop, but he goes with a pretty good hard jump, gets a nice little gap instantly, and I mean, the group, I think there's 4 guys up the road right now, but they were kind of letting the group get away, and that little attack, even though it didn't really go anywhere or do anything, it was enough to motivate the field to keep the pace high and keep chasing. So that little attack he does there, even though he gets brought back and he's not going to bridge across, Now he's perfectly set up because he's still at the front. He didn't burn too much of a match, so he could stay at the front. And now he also motivated the field a little bit more, so they're going to continue to chase. I mean, you look ahead, those guys are already slowly coming back. And I mean, the field behind him too, they're all pretty strung out. So you know that they're actually putting in a pretty good dig here. And those guys on the front, I mean, there's 4 of them. If they work well together, they can stay away. But now, you know, this is tough for Kyle. He's solo right now, and it's like, well, what do I do? Do I try to bridge again across to that? No, you don't. Because if you think about it, look at your speed. You guys are doing 26, 27. At times, they're hitting 28. Like, that's pretty fast. Now, if you think you can go 28, 29 to get away from that in the bridge across, I mean, that's a pretty big gamble. So I would just kind of sit in, continue to follow wheels, let them take up the chase for a couple laps. I mean, again, those guys in front, I mean, they're not that far up the road. They're like a 10-second gap, maybe 10 seconds. I mean, that's not that big of a gap. They're just hanging on. And the pack is still, I mean, look, they're flying at 30 miles an hour right now. I mean, they're super motivated to keep that one in sight. So as a solo rider too, you need to realize that and use that to your advantage. You just need to sit in, relax, and let everyone else around you do the work. Now, what Kyle does good though is he stays towards the front. He doesn't drop all the way back to mid-pack, because now, you know, if you were to drop all the way back to the mid-pack and someone did actually counter and the pack slowed down a little bit and you were boxed in and someone bridged across to that, I mean, you'd miss out on a free ride. So he does a great job at staying, you know, in the top 5 this whole chase effort. And that guy checked up, almost hit his front wheel. That's crazy. But now right here, Kyle does a good job at coming around these guys in that corner, and then now bridges this gap, which obviously was easier because they brought him within like 3 seconds. But then he does something even better, and he keeps going past them. I mean, this is what you need to do. Even though you bridge the group, don't stop. Just keep going. And honestly, with this kind of move, you're hoping that someone follows you. Now, it's kind of a bummer that you look in his review, like no one followed him. So that definitely is a bummer. But still, it's a good textbook counterattack follow through. It wasn't super aggressive. It was just a little acceleration on the outside through that corner. Comes up to the breakaway in front of him, catches him, and just keeps going past him with his momentum. And really, you're just hoping the guys behind you will jump on your wheel. Now again, the pack was super strung out and they were motivated. And honestly, when they catch those other guys too, they're probably going to take it a little bit chill. But then they got right back on the gas and they kept chasing Kyle down. And then right here we have someone else come up and actually bridges with Kyle. He comes to the front and takes a good dig. But then if you look behind, the pack is super motivated, so they keep chasing hard. They're all strung out, and now they get on Kyle's wheel and it's all back together. So we fast forward again. I want to say we're about 24 minutes in, I believe. And I mean, I've cut out quite a bit of this race already, but again, Kyle has been very patient, and as riding solo, you have to be very patient. Your chess game has to be super good. You have to realize what to go with and what to let go. And Kyle's been doing a good job so far. Now, boom, right here on the left, you can see that guy from the back. Now he just came to the front. He attacked through. Kyle's already on this guy's wheel, and this guy was luckily motivated to like kind of give a little dig to chase after that. And he's set up perfectly to where all he has to do is just match the acceleration. And once this guy settles in, starts doing his tempo or his threshold, whatever he's doing, Kyle is now on his wheel, just chilling with him, sucking up the draft. He's second wheel, and if he wanted to, he could easily jump across to that solo rider. But again, racing solo, if someone goes solo up the road and the pack keeps them within sight, just let it go and don't worry about it. Just because someone goes up the road doesn't mean that they're going to stay away. Especially if you're racing in like cat 5 and 4 categories. A lot of people will attack up the road, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's so threatening. But a lot of guys overdo it in their attacks, or they go way too early in a race. I mean, there's not a lot of Cat 5 and Cat 4 guys that can really hold huge watts solo for an entirety of a race. You really have to, the only guys that are doing that are probably like, guys who are really good at mountain biking, who are almost like pro mountain bikers, who are now thinking about taking up road racing, and then they come in and obviously they have very good fitness and they can do that kind of stuff. Or maybe it's cyclocross riders who are actually pretty good too, and all of a sudden they decide to come in and give road racing a try. You only have guys flying through the categories if they're actually extremely fit. But again, if you're looking at the start list and you're reading through the names, you'll realize which solo riders or which riders in general are going to be strong, and those are the ones you kind of have to mark and follow. So in this race, I didn't ask Kyle who he actually marked strength-wise, but I mean he has a pretty good idea of all the riders in his area. But anyways, he's just doing well. I mean, he's being patient. That guy that was off the front, they brought him back. Like, just he didn't panic. He didn't go to the front and take massive pulls or anything. He's just relaxing in the group, letting things open up around him and kind of unfold. I mean, we're almost halfway. I think we're over halfway through the race, and it's still together. Up until this point, it hasn't been a crazy race when it comes to attacks. I mean, there's been a couple here and there, and they've been gone for maybe a lap or two, and then they brought them all back. So the field is motivated, okay? And that's something else you got to figure out. But then you also got to read what's going on with the field. Are people in the field actually getting tired? So they've been doing, there's a couple moves out the front. They put in some really good digs, but are people in the field getting tired? And obviously right here, I mean, they're doing about 25, 24. I mean, it's pretty good speed. And then on the left side, you got two guys that decide to attack. Now Kyle's sitting here. Now he has to go because now there's 3, now there's 4, and he's already at the front. He's in a perfect spot to bridge across. Puts in a massive snap right there, a massive little dig. Creates the gap, and now he's up the road with 1, 2, 3, 4 guys, and it looks like there might be a 5th guy up there as well. But now he's off the front. He's in a good little breakaway, and all he has to do is work with these guys. Now these guys I don't know what happened here, but they kind of let the gap open up, and they started dropping off the main guys who created the break. So then Kyle comes around them, which I think is smart. Comes up to these guys. Now these guys are soft pedaling, and instantly Kyle kind of sees like this isn't gonna work. So even though that was a great move to follow, luckily it only lasted for about 30 seconds, and instantly the group is catching back on the back, and that actually allows Kyle, and he's smart, he sits up and he realizes the chemistry of this breakaway isn't gonna work, and he sits up and he's gonna just save his matches and look for the next one. That's something else. If you're solo and you get in a breakaway, just because you get in a breakaway, you don't have to go all in. I mean, sometimes you get in a breakaway and it just isn't going to work from the very get-go, and you get that feeling. So then don't go all in. It's okay to drop back or wait for the group to catch you. Now that guy went solo on the outside. He went through that corner, and now he's off the front. Again, let that go. I mean, if someone goes solo off the front, the odds of them holding that and staying away are not that great. So I would just let it go. Unless you know who they are and you know how strong they are, just let it go and be patient and let the group pull them back. I mean, this whole race, the group has been very motivated anyways, right? They've been pulling everything back so far. So you can put your faith in the fact that this group is either going to, 1, some guys might try to bridge that breakaway up the road or that solo rider up the road, or 2, they're just going to pull it back. I believe that said we had 6 laps to go. I can't remember what that said, but we're coming down in the final stretch too. So that's another thing to think about as a solo rider. You have to, in your head, you kind of have to pick at what lap card do you stop attacking and do you start sitting in and getting ready for the sprint if there's no breakaway up the road. You have to think about that. And in this instance, I mean, the pack, again, they're motivated and they're trying to keep things together. So the odds of this coming down to a sprint are actually very high. So you have to think about it. With 8 laps to go, do I stop trying to get off the front with people? At 6 laps to go, do I stop? At 3 laps to go, do I stop? Like, at what point do I need to stop trying to go off the front or following attacks off the front and just sit in and wait for the sprint? That's something to think about when you're racing solo. Sometimes we get anxious and we just don't think about those things, and we will play into the hands of other riders and we'll end up burning up our matches. And then when it comes down to the sprint and you can't sprint around anyone, you wonder why. Like, my gosh, why didn't I have the legs right there? Well, you just spent the 2 laps prior to this trying to go off the front. It doesn't work out, right? You're gonna burn up all your matches. But again, there was a guy solo up the front, and Kyle is doing a fantastic job at just sitting in and waiting for the group to pull him back. I mean, they're still pretty bunched up too. I mean, they're chasing hard, but you got multiple guys sitting on the front. So everyone in this group are still relatively fresh. So even think about that. If it's not strung out single file, but it's kind of bunched up and you're moving fast, that kind of lets you know that the guys in the group are still feeling pretty fresh and are still feeling really motivated. Now we're coming up to 5 laps to go right there. This is going to be 5 laps to go. And again, just surfing wheels, being patient. Now at this time, you know, for me personally, I'd probably shut down the fact that a breakaway would go. So if I was racing solo right now, I would probably just sit in and relax. But Kyle's being aggressive this race, and I really like this, and he decides to go. Now he goes and he bridges up to this guy, and then he just blows his doors off and goes right past him. And now we're just kind of, you know, now he's solo though, so that's kind of an issue, right? Now, do you put in a really hard, solid dig to try to stay away? I mean, you got, what did I say, 5 laps to go? I mean, that's a pretty, that's a lot of laps. If you're looking at running 1.5 to 2 minutes each lap, I mean, that's going to be easily 8.5 to 10 minutes being solo off the front. That's a long time. And the pack is motivated. I mean, yeah, he's got a lot of daylight, but still, any minute they could decide just to kind of turn up the heat a little bit, and then they're going to start bringing them back. So, you know, this is a gamble. This is a huge gamble, especially with 5 laps to go. Would I have done this? I don't know. Now, if I would have thought I went solo and no one was with me, I probably would have eased up a little bit and gave in. As you can see, the pack is now starting to gain up on him. Actually, he's got a solo rider coming across. So this actually kind of works out for him. So solo rider comes out, catches him, and they pass him, and they got 4 laps to go. So you got 4 more times of this. Now you actually have some help. So at this point, it's like, okay, 4 laps to go, me and another rider, you know, maybe we can go all in. And it depends on how this rider in front of him feels too. I mean, right now he's kind of in a good position. I mean, this gamble is actually starting to pay off. Now right here, I don't know what's going on. I mean, kind of, he pulls through a little bit, but then it looks like they both kind of might be just fading a bit, especially the guy that's with him. He's definitely easing up. Kyle kind of realizes, you know, the makeup of this isn't going to work, and he eases up a little bit too, and they're just going to let the pack come up and roll up on him. And then they're going to be coming into 3 to go here shortly. But again, this is good. You know, it was a good try. As a solo rider, you do have to take some risks. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. But that's the problem with racing solo, is like you gotta learn to be conservative while also being aggressive. I know those are total 2 polar opposites, but it's something you have to work on and something you have to think about. You have to be an aggressive racer while also trying to be conservative. So Kyle was aggressive in that move and going with 4 to go. It almost paid off because he had someone else bridge to him, but then he realized between him and the other guy, it's just not going to work. So then they end up calling it. Now they take it easy, and this guy flies up the middle in the gutter, and Kyle does a great job at making sure he stays on this guy's wheel. Again, he's got a free ride. This is now going to really stretch out the peloton, and they're going to be moving again, and they're motivated super hard right now because they're coming in with 3 laps to go. Okay, they got 3 laps to go, and I mean, at this point, they're not going to let a solo rider get away and ruin the day for everyone. So Kyle is again doing a fantastic job at staying towards the front. Now, in this instance, if you're a solo rider, do not feel like you have to pull in the closing laps. It's okay to drop back a couple riders and let other people pull. Like, there's so many other guys that are willing to do the work. And luckily right here, you know, Kyle's second wheel, but this other guy decides that he's going to go to the front and help a little bit. Now, if I was Kyle, I would have stayed on that guy's wheel, but instead, Kyle came around him, which, I mean, it's okay, but when this guy's done, unless you're going to pull next, I would have just stayed on the other guy's wheel, because the other guy would have been completely content with taking another pull. So that's something else you can think about. You don't always have to be second wheel. You can let other people take pulls for you, okay? It's not up to you. I mean, if there's other teams in the group, those teams are going to work. It's not your job to pull everything back. I mean, you're riding by yourself. You can actually be selfish. It's okay. You only person you have to answer to at the end of the day is you. So it's all right to sit in and relax. Luckily, Kyle's kind of starting to do that. I believe we're coming into 2 laps to go, so things are going to start to really heat up now. They're going to crank the heat up. That guy is still solo off the front, but if you look in the Kyle's review camera, I mean, everyone is pushing, fighting for position. Everyone's holding wheels. Everyone's getting really motivated. And here we go. We got 2 laps to go. Sitting pretty. Now the only struggle here as a solo rider is you want to try to stay in the top 5 in the last 1 to 2 laps. It's gonna be hard, especially if there's teams. You might have teams trying to come to the front and do lead outs and kind of push you out of the way. Like, you have to learn how to hold your ground. You have to learn how to stay in there and how to hold the wheel in front of you. Now this is where practicing bumping and whatnot comes into play, because if someone tries to come in on you, you can just kind of put your elbows out or put your shoulder out and just kind of bump them a little bit. And you're not trying to crash them or anything like that. That would be awful. But you can just kind of give them a little nudge and be like, hey, this is the wheel I'm on. This is my line, buddy. Don't try to overtake this wheel. This is my line. This is my wheel. Now right here, he's getting swarmed a little bit, but he's doing a good job in not panicking. Okay, again, we're getting ready to come into 1 to go, and everyone is getting super antsy now. Still, he's doing a great job staying towards the front. He's not losing too many positions. He can't lose any more positions right now. He has to stay up towards the front. So again, we're coming into 1 to go. I think that other rider is still off the front. So this is actually good for him, because now the peloton is going to keep the pace high and fast, because 1, they're chasing that other rider down because they're coming into 1 to go and they don't want that guy to spoil the day. And then 2, keeping it fast is going to allow for a better, single file around this course, which is going to help with holding position. Now there's a little bit of a jump. It almost looks like that's a team going to the front and organizing a lead out. Again, he didn't hesitate. He responds well at coming around those guys, and is now, ooh, you took that. Dang, Kyle, you cooked that corner. Man, you almost lost it through that corner. That was mad skills of committing to it and dodging that hay bale and the curb at the same time. Anyways, now he's jumped up and he's kind of moved up onto the wheel of this team. It almost looks like there is a team. Maybe they're all just in black. No, there's kind of a team up here. The only thing I would have done was I wouldn't have gone all the way to the front like this. You're burning some matches right here. I would have stayed back a little bit more, but you did kind of stay out of getting swarmed. But now you're starting to get swarmed, and you really have to fight. People are gonna start getting tired. There's a good little lead out with the orange team. I mean, honestly, when you see 2 guys like that go to the front, the guy in the front is gonna do the lead out, and the guy behind is gonna be the sprinter. So those are kind of the wheels you're gonna want to get to the front on and stay in. Now right now he's still kind of in the wind, but it's okay. He's on this wheel. I believe we're in the finishing straight now. Now he's a little far back. The sprinter's up there in the orange. It's gonna force Kyle to open up his sprint early. The guy in orange is starting to go. You gotta go around this lap traffic now. Well, not the lap traffic, but the sprint traffic. This other guy came out of nowhere. Dude, that dude is flying. Still, Kyle's doing a great job. You're hanging on. Man, people are really coming up behind you, but you're hanging on. You gotta dig, and you gotta dig all the way to the line. And Kyle takes 3rd on the day. Overall, that is a fantastic job at racing solo. That is something to think about when you're racing down the future. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I got another one coming of his road race from this Omnium weekend. But as always, hey, I hope you guys keep riding and training hard, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Take it easy.